Hello and welcome to the Andy's Bet Club podcast. I'm Joe and I'll be joined by two Andy's Bet Club writers and experts to put together a four-leg bet builder for this Sunday's game between Liverpool and Tottenham Hotspurs. And I'm not just joined by any two experts, I'm joined by my favourite two people right now, because the last time we gathered, Rob and Ramis, our bet builder for Real Madrid Manchester City, it came in. Congratulations, guys. Let it wash over you.
Round of applause for us.
Self-applause, self-congratulations is the best type.
Yeah. Nailed it, lads. Great to be back, isn't it? Back, hopefully, with another one.
Absolutely. And we sort of mentioned before we started recording, even your version of the Antoine Semenyo Love Him would have also worked in that game. So
yeah, I did chuckle when I listened back at Ramos calling Antoine Semenyo my love interest. So if we can not dwell on that, and this is not becoming a thing. This is not becoming a thing. I also did say that I'm going to take credit for saying Fede Valverde is really good at football. I mean, how many more things can we get right, really?
There we go. Yeah, good instincts, and let's try and use those for this weekend's game. Two sides that didn't have great midweeks in the Champions League, to say the least, Ramis, but I'd imagine that one side is a little bit more confident going into this game than the other still.
Yeah, Tottenham are hurting at the moment, and as much as I'm reveling in it, I do feel for them a little bit, just a tiny bit. Obviously in a complete mess at the moment, lost 5-2 to Atletico Madrid. In my opinion, I think a lot of the players have kind of checked out from Igor Tudor already. I'm quite surprised that he's kept his job for this game, because this could get a little bit ugly. But that being said, Liverpool didn't have the best midweek either, as you mentioned, lost 1-0 to Galatasaray. And I think there's a little bit of a feeling, not to the same extent as Tudor at Tottenham, that Arne Slot's coming under a little bit of pressure. I don't think he's ever quite managed to get that relationship with the fans. Obviously, it's quite hard after Jurgen Klopp, but I think now there are those doubts kind of creeping in. Obviously, you win the title first year, you get that pass. But now I think some of the Liverpool fans are starting to get on his back a little bit. So it's an interesting tie. But as you said, for Tottenham, it's much worse. And it's compounded by the fact that they haven't won at Anfield in the Premier League since 2011. So it doesn't look good. Yeah, it doesn't look good for them.
And let's see how that affects this bet builder that we've put together. So, Ramis, I'll start with you. What's our first selection that we've gone with?
So we've gone with Conor Gallagher to commit 2 or more fouls at 1.62. Obviously, this is he's very high up in the market for fouls, and that's no surprise. He gets the reckless tag quite often, but the reason I actually like backing Conor Gallagher for fouls, cards, etc., is just because of how many opportunities he gives himself to kind of commit these fouls. He's so busy, running all over the pitch. I think you could make an argument to say that he needs a bit more discipline in his game, but because he's not that capable on the ball, he often, I feel like, has to impose himself without the ball when he runs around, like a headless chicken sometimes. He's committed 11 fouls across his 7 starts since joining Tottenham in the Premier League. It's about 1.7 per 90, and he's up against a pivot of Gravenberch and McAllister, who between them are averaging over 2 fouls, 1 per 90 in the Premier League. And I actually think Liverpool look best when they've got Gravenberch, McAllister, and then Szoboszlai a bit ahead of them. I like Florian Wirtz, but I just think, that midfield won a Premier League title, and when they play together, I think they're so balanced. So I think that's what Slot will go with, and I think that particularly Gravenberch and McAllister. Gravenberch is very good in tight areas. McAllister's got kind of like the tenacity to match Gallagher, so I can see them trading blows. Last time Conor Gallagher was in the Premier League, if we're looking for like a bigger sample size, he averaged over 2 fouls committed per 90 in his final season at Chelsea. So he's definitely a player that is busy, that is a bit reckless. And then you've also got the idea or the narrative of Tottenham being frustrated, maybe being a bit petulant. They've collected more yellow cards than any other side in the Premier League this season. Only 3 sides have committed more fouls. So there's definitely capability for Tottenham to kind of implode here. And I think Gallagher could be the face of that a little bit.
Yeah, I guess the only question mark would be whether he definitely starts. But I guess against Liverpool, I think you're more likely to see him deployed than you were in those games like Palace and Atletico, I guess. But yes, as a Palace fan, it's a few years ago he was on loan with us, but he was
quite good there though, wasn't that? That was probably his best football for a while, wasn't it?
But absolutely was collecting cards and fouls constantly. It was Will Hughes has replaced him now in that as a kind of like, that's the selection I'd always go for. But when he was in the team, so yeah, when he plays, no matter who it is for now, this is the sort of selection that I would be back in as well. So
me too.
Rob, what's your U2's second selection then?
So we're going for goals, over 2.5 at 1.44. this is a line that I really wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool just cover on their own, to be honest. We could go on and on about how bad Spurs are right now, but goals have been a real feature of both sides. Liverpool averaging three goals per game in the Premier League. Tottenham 2.93. Liverpool are seeing over 2.5 in 69% of their matches this season, and Tottenham at 62%. So really consistent numbers there. And also, I think as bad as Spurs are, they are still scoring goals. They've scored in 9 of the last 10 Premier League matches. They scored 2 in midweek. Like this, there is still ability in that team, and that's why it's so hard to believe in some ways that they've ended up in the position that they are. But this started out as me looking at the game and thinking and talking with Ramis, and we're saying about how much we think Tottenham are going to struggle and how many goals Liverpool might score. And it's actually quite crazy when you look at it. Tottenham have conceded 2+ goals in 17 of the 29 Premier League matches. Only one team has conceded 2 or more goals on more occasions than that, and that's Burnley. Ironically, they drew 2-2 in January as well, with everything coming together. So yeah, I think the goals just it looks like the way to go, really. And even I'm not massively one for looking at head-to-heads, but the goals have flown in this contest in recent times, in particular in Liverpool's favour. They won 2-1 in the reverse earlier in the season, and then the two of the meetings last season they won 5-1 and 4-0. And I really wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar to that here. Not to be the doom and gloom for any Spurs fans listening, but I'm sure they'd say the same. So yeah, lock that one in.
No Van der Ven either, is there, due to that suspension? So, well,
yeah, and I mean, I don't know what the back three is going to look like. Like Polina might come back in, or it could be Dragusin. But I mean, that is like, do you want to die by fire or drowning?
Yes. Yeah,
pick your poison, really, because that's not a good option. I would say if Dragusin starts, he's a really interesting one to look at for a foul, because I think he was priced around 1.67, which is looks pretty generous to me if he does start. So I'd keep your eye on that market.
Yeah, I think we see so many players deployed there where it's not their natural position over the last sort of, even we go back to Angie's time as well with the injuries. Archie Gray as well, although I think he's actually been sort of needed elsewhere at the moment. So, but yeah,
I think he just goes wherever they fancy. They just move his marker around at the start of the game and just go, you're playing there today, Archie, left wing back or wherever.
Yeah. Cool. Sorry to any Spurs fans listening right now. I think they know all this, but it's just compounding just the panic ahead of this game. But yeah, over 2.5 goals, some of which could be by Spurs, going into our 4-leg bet builder, along with Conor Gallagher, 2 or more fouls committed. Ramis, what's your first selection?
We've gone with Tottenham to pick up 2 or more cards at 1.33. So I mentioned earlier on, they've picked up more cards than any other side in the Premier League this season. 74 across the Premier League games, works out to about 2.55 per game. And they also rank really high up for fouls. Only 3 sides have committed more fouls than Tottenham in the Premier League this season. It's about just under 12 fouls per game. And I think there is a sense here, I think you saw midweek, that the players kind of gave up on Igor Tudor. I think that is pretty much obvious now. And I think coming into this game, you often see like teams when they're kind of done with a manager, it really reflects in their performance. They're a bit more petulant. They kind of want to show something. And I feel that there's been a lot of that at Spurs this season. You saw it in the most recent meeting between these sides where they got 2 red cards. Xavi Simons was sent off, and then Christian Moreira got a second yellow card. I think there is that feeling amongst players that think they're probably better than where they're operating at, that, I need to show something of myself, especially players like Moreira as an example. He's always one that, if he's playing terrible, he'll just go and kick someone because he wants to show that fight, that aggression. And I think that will come into the game today. As well as those 2 red cards in the last game, they picked up 5 yellow cards. So I just see them shrinking a little bit in this game. I think when the first goal goes in for Liverpool, I can just see a complete collapse from Tottenham. And even if it takes some time for the cards to kind of stack up, which can be the case of one-sided games, I think towards the end of the game you'll see them collect at least 2 cards.
Yeah, Romero back in gives me some heart and encouragement for this particular selection, I do have to say. Not that Tottenham have lacked in discipline elsewhere, as you suggested, but it's my eyes have lit up at this one. As you see the same way, Rob.
Can we put to bed now that Romero's one one of the top 5 centre backs in the world, or whatever Spurs fans were claiming at the top of the season? Because my God, he's nowhere near. Well, definitely not me, but by God, he's appalling. Yeah, he wouldn't be top 5 in Sunday League at this rate. He's an absolute liability in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, he'll be a good player in the Championship, I'm sure. See how many red cards he gets down there.
Do you know what? That's the sort of player that will just fall upwards in the summer, and you go, "Oh, right, he's managed to get a move to Juventus or something." And you just think, "Oh,
he absolutely stinks of him going to Atletico Madrid."
I was going to say
He's the most Atletico Madrid player ever.
Oh gosh! Right, so that's 3 of our 4. Rob, what have you decided between you on the final pick?
Yeah, a bit of a what might sound slightly left field from me and Ramis here. We were talking about very much what Ramis has kind of gone through there with Tottenham committing plenty of fouls, a lot of cards, and with the way everything's going right now, it's going to potentially get a bit nasty, a bit petulant when they start lashing out if the game goes in the way we think. So we're going for Ibrahima Konate to be fouled 1 or more times at 1.4. Obviously, a centre-half. Another centre-half that I actually don't particularly rate, if I'm honest. Find him quite rash and clumsy, and to me, he seems a really obvious place for Liverpool to upgrade, but that's a different conversation. He's actually fouled really regularly. Liverpool's forward players aren't huge at drawing fouls, but Konate is their second most fouled player this season. He's been fouled 32 times, only 3 behind Cody Gakpo, who's the most fouled player. So that's 1.2 times per 90 minutes. And it's been a selection that's landed a lot recently. 13 of his last 15 games have seen him be fouled at least once. And he's been fouled 13 times in his last 8 matches. He's, when you look at the 2 defenders, you kind of, I think, with what Van Dijk used to be like but it's changed a little bit since he got older. It's very much Konate that steps out with the ball into midfield and tries to give Liverpool that numerical advantage where they can get an extra body in the final third. And that does lead to him getting fouled a bit. And then obviously you've got the other way that with Spurs being so aggressive, if they do get set pieces, it's quite easy for a centre-back to flop to the floor and get a foul off them. And I think the beauty of this as well is it's not just, a general feeling of Spurs fouls. Their forward players commit so many fouls. Randall Cole Muani is committing 2.42 per 19, has committed more fouls than anyone in the squad. And then you might see a few different players obviously come and go throughout the game who could foul Konate. Both Richarlison and Matisse Teller committing 1.06 fouls per 90. Xavi Simons has been out the side a little bit, out the starting 11 recently, but if he does come on, he's averaging 1.05 fouls per 90 as well. And I've seen him in bigger games take a few swipes at people. I think he was booked against Manchester City when we did the podcast for that game for a really, really stupid tackle where he just hacked away at someone's shins on the counter attack. So one of those picks that maybe more synonymous with thinking of Konate as someone to commit 1 foul, but the drawing 1 foul looked like a really attractive price here. And I think if Liverpool are going to have quite a bit of the ball, that's when you need situations where a defender does step in and kind of disrupt things a little bit and get Spurs out of a shape if they are trying to kind of hold in, which I think is their only hope, really. They can't go toe-to-toe with them here.
No. I could think of, going back to Conor Gallagher, I think if he was deployed correctly by Tottenham, he would be the person nipping at Konate's heels. And perhaps it's not just in our interest. I think it'd be in Tottenham's interest if that was how they arranged on Sunday, but it would do us a favour as well, wouldn't it, Ramis?
Yeah, definitely. The other thing I'd say about Tottenham, just in relation to the Konate fouls, and a little bit building on what Rob was saying about Van Dijk, is I still think Van Dijk's got that bit of a fear factor about him where centre forwards don't necessarily want to go directly up against him. Konate had a torrid time. He actually got a bit lucky against Galatasaray. He fell flat on his arse, basically, and they had the goal disallowed. But yeah, I agree with Rob. I think he's become a bit unstuck this season, a bit distracted maybe by Real Madrid links and things like that. So yeah, set up perfectly for him to be fouled at least once.
Yeah. And there's our 4-leg bet builder. Over 2.5 goals in the game. Conor Gallagher, 2 or more fouls committed. Ibrahima Konate for 1 plus fouls 1. And Tottenham Hotspur to have 2 or more cards. That's combined odds of 3.89 on Paddy Power, where we're placing this one today. If you want to join us on that, check the podcast episode notes. There'll be a link there to open that up for you and place it as well. Or if you want to make your own, head to andysbetclub.co.uk/bet-builder. Players must be 18 or over, of course, and please gamble responsibly. Right, thank you very much, gents. Thank you, Rob.
Cheers, Joe. Thanks for having me.
And thank you, Ramis. Let's hope we can keep the ball rolling for this one. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast on your app of choice so that you don't miss any further episodes. We'll be back next week for the second leg Champions League match between Barcelona and Newcastle. Until then, goodbye and good luck.